Dropping out. So when a lot of people hear that you want to drop out of high school, they automatically think, hey, you're not going to go anywhere in life. You're not going to get a good job. You're not going to be able to go to college. And you're just going to be living at home forever, or maybe working a dead end job somewhere. And before I really begin this, I want to just kind of point out, I'm not advocating for dropping out of high school. I'm just kind of going over, my circumstance and how I guess I kind of proved that wrong. So my father was in the military. He just recently retired. We started in Illinois, and Illinois had a fairly decent school system. I was in 7th grade when we got the news that we were moving. So that summer, we got orders to move to Hawaii. We were all excited to move to Hawaii. But in Illinois, I actually would have failed 7th grade. When we got to Hawaii, though, they said that because of their grading scale, they adopted a 9-point system, 10-point system, where 80 to 89% is a B, whereas Illinois had some weird grading scale, which wasn't weird to me at the time, but now it kind of is. So because of that, I just barely made it to the 8th grade, and I was so excited for that. But the trade-off of that was I had to be put in remedial 7th and 8th grade math and English, which was fine. I didn't have really any electives, but I worked my way out of that fairly quickly, and I was in regular 7th and 8th grade math and English within like a month. But I did find something kind of odd there. I spent a few weeks in the office just so they can make sure I knew how to read and write, which to me it was odd because I came from Illinois, so I already knew how to read and write and all of that. But aside from that, I didn't really see how bad the school systems were in Hawaii until I got to high school. When I got to high school, it's like things were completely reversed from Illinois. So it seemed like there were fights on a weekly basis. Maybe every few days there was a fight about something stupid. There weren't enough desks for the students. There was no air conditioning. The textbooks we had were out of date, and there weren't enough textbooks for the students. We actually had students that had to share desks. The class size, I want to say, if I remember correctly, it was around upper 30 students to one teacher, which kind of took a toll. And a lot of the teachers didn't really care. And to me, it kind of seems, now that I look back on it, it seems like that they probably didn't care because they didn't have the materials that they needed to teach. So that kind of put the students at a disadvantage there, and a lot of students suffered for it. Well, the middle of my junior year, we got orders to move to Missouri. So that summer, we packed up and moved to Missouri. Well, when I started school in Missouri, it was the complete opposite of Hawaii, and I was like, what the fuck? This is like complete shock for me. They had laptops for all of the students. I remember one thing that kind of felt like I was back in Hawaii. The first day I started there was a fight, and I was like, oh, I never left Hawaii. But anyway, and they still had a 10-point scale, 9-point scale, whatever you want to call it, but it was so much more difficult there. Like Hawaii, it was a large school, and Missouri, I think senior class was like 12 people, and I wasn't used to anything like that. So on top of that, they were going paperless, which I wasn't computer illiterate. I knew how to do that, but I didn't know how to really submit things online through the school website. And they also told me, hey, you're behind in credits. Hawaii was 6 credits a year at the time to graduate. Missouri was 8 credits a year. So I was already behind, but to that school's credit, and I was thankful for that, they were able to get a waiver for those credits that I needed. All I had to do was pass the year, which I was like, I can do this shit. I got it. But that wasn't the case. No one really showed me how to do anything. I tried to figure it out, and I remember I had this one teacher. It was a history teacher that, on top of assigning 100 vocabulary words, I guess every couple weeks, we had to also memorize the notes, and that came to a point to where it became too hard for me because I was trying to keep up with him along with all my other classes. And I started that school a little late, so I was kind of already at a disadvantage there. But it just, I remember taking every opportunity I could to get extra credit for him. We would have to be on campus at 6 o'clock to watch an extra credit movie. So I did that every time I could, but even then, it just wasn't enough. So it got to the point to where I went to the counselor and I asked her, hey, can I be put in maybe an easier class or something? And she said, no, there is no easier class, which I had a friend at the time that was in an easier class. So I was like, one of them two was fucking lying to me. So it got to the point where later on I went back and I talked to her and she said, you're just now trying to learn what you should have learned the beginning of your freshman year. And that fucking blew my mind. I was like, really? You couldn't fucking tell me this shit the beginning of the year so I could have weighed my options? So we started talking and then she said that dropping out was an option. Now I kind of want to let that sink in a little bit. A school counselor fucking told a student that dropping out was going to be an option. So in my mind, I was like, she has her fucking mind made up. My mind's fucking made up. So I went home and I told my parents I was going to drop out. And they couldn't do anything at that time because I was 18. I was already an adult. So the next day I went in and dropped out. And then I actually enrolled myself into GED classes. And then it caused tensions at home. It caused a lot of tensions at home at first. I think my father and I went a couple months without speaking to each other. But as soon as they saw how much I was progressing and how much I wanted this, they came around and they started to see how much better that dropping out was for me as opposed to staying in that school system where I was barely getting any support outside of them, waivering them credits, which again, I'm thankful for. So I ended up receiving my GED before that class graduated, and then I enrolled myself in college. And it did take me a little bit to receive my associates. Usually people take 2 years, but we moved again. So it ended up taking me, I started college in Missouri, so I did 2 years in Missouri and then 2 years where we are now. But the important part is I got my degree. I have my associates, and now I'm actually kind of finishing up my bachelor's. I have about 1.5 years left of my bachelor's. Then after that, who knows? So when people kind of sit there and say, dropping out is bad, you're not going to go anywhere, just give them a big fuck you. Like, for real, it's just, again, I'm not advocating for dropping out, but it doesn't have to be this bad thing that you need to be ashamed of. Like, dropping out can be very beneficial for you if you take them steps, if you get the help you need, and if you pursue your GED. So that's my story. I just kind of wanted to share it with you all and kind of kick off this channel. What this channel is going to be about, I guess, mainly conversations. If y'all want to see some gameplay, that would be cool too. Of course, I would have to go through the whole legal hassle of probably trying to fucking get permissions to do that shit. But if there's any certain games you would like to see, and just, I guess, leave in the comments below. Again, thank you so much for visiting my channel, and I hope y'all have a wonderful week. And